Welcome to the HealthForce product training on algae. Here in this first slide, I want to point out a few things that really set the HealthForce algae apart from other algae products that are out there on the market. First thing to notice is this packaging system. Amber glass with a metal lid and a rubber seal, oxygen absorber in the bottle. Uh, Oxygen cannot get inside the bottle with this kind of a packaging system. All plastic, by the way, is permeable to oxygen. So any algae products packaged in plastic will allow oxygen to get into the bottle, and that oxygen will oxidize some of the fragile nutrients in the algae. That's not going to happen with HealthForce products. There's effectively a vacuum in these bottles, and no oxidation of the fragile nutrients is occurring as a result. A second thing to notice is that these algae are all truganic. What that means, Truganic is a HealthForce quality standard that effectively means we've tested these products for 292 different pesticides and herbicides, for radiation and for GMOs, and we found zero detectable levels of these contaminants in these products. So the HealthForce Algaes effective packaging system guaranteeing the potency of the algae, and our Truganic program guaranteeing the purity of these algae. So in this slide, we're going to discuss microalgae. Microalgae are very small algae, actually typically requiring a microscope to be able to see them. There are a variety of other types of algae on the planet that would be classified as macroalgae. Sea vegetables are an example of macroalgae. Certain species of kelp, for example, can grow up to 250 feet long. Now, sea vegetables are very beneficial to consume, but we're not going to talk about them in this training. We're going to focus on the microalgae. And one specific type of microalgae that's fairly prevalent on the planet is various blue-green algae species. And blue-green algae showed up on planet Earth about 3.5 billion years ago. And they were really the first plants on the planet to be able to photosynthesize. And photosynthesis is really an important process where the plant takes carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, combines that with various nutrients that it picks up from the ocean that these blue-green algae were growing in at that time, and they therefore produced all sorts of complex molecules like proteins, carbs, fats, vitamins, phytonutrients, etc. Really all the complex compounds that animals require to grow their bodies and thrive. And this photosynthesis process also produces oxygen. So these blue-green algae, by performing photosynthesis, really set up the conditions on planet Earth for the rise of animal species. And these algae, to this day, are the base of the food chain on the planet. They produce all the complex molecules that are then consumed by organisms higher up on the food chain, and eventually by us humans to grow our bodies and really thrive here on planet Earth. So there are really many different types of microalgae, but three of them are known to be non-toxic and are currently being consumed by humans, specifically Chlorella, Spirulina, and Klamath Lake algae. And these microalgae are incredibly nutrient rich, specifically micronutrient rich, I might add. Really what we're lacking in the modern world is micronutrients, and these algae have it in a big way. These algae are 50 to 70% highly digestible complete protein, containing all the essential amino acids required to grow our bodies. I mean, that's really an extraordinary amount of protein. No other food even comes close to these algae in terms of protein content. This is the most protein-rich food on planet Earth, effectively. And these algae are also the richest known source of chlorophyll in plants. Chlorophyll is the green pigment that allows plants to photosynthesize, and chlorophyll actually is very related or close to hemoglobin, which is the red blood cell in humans that carries oxygen to all of our cells. Chlorophyll is identical to hemoglobin with the exception of the central atom. In chlorophyll is magnesium, as opposed to hemoglobin. The central atom is iron. So when you eat a lot of chlorophyll, you can make more hemoglobin and therefore oxygenate your body more effectively. These algae are also very rich in nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are the building blocks for our genetic material, our RNA and our DNA. So when you consume foods rich in nucleic acids, your body can use those building blocks to help repair your genetic material. Obviously, that's very important. These algae are also a source of important omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, specifically GLA and specifically spirulina. We'll talk about that when we discuss spirulina in more detail. But GLA, also uh, known as gamma-linolenic acid, very important omega-6 fatty acid. EPA and DHA are very important omega-3 fatty acids, and I might add that these three fatty acids are pretty rare in plants. GLA may be a little more common, but EPA and DHA very rare to find that these omega-3 fats in plants. These are very critical fats for human health. So the fact these algae have these fats is definitely a benefit of these algae. These algae contain thousands of important phytonutrients, both known and unknown. They're extremely rich in minerals and vitamins. They're also rich in beta carotene and other carotenoids. Beta carotene is something that the body can use to make vitamin A. These algae are rich in different antioxidants and pigments. Uh, and these algae really, I like to say, are the antidote for us overfed but undernourished modern humans. Modern humans typically are overfed in macronutrients, things like proteins, carbs, and fats. But we are oftentimes undernourished in micronutrients. Our soil's so depleted these days that many of us are lacking critical micronutrients. These algae really are so rich in micronutrients, they're really the antidote to that micronutrient deficiency that is epidemic in our culture. Now let's discuss the HealthForce products Spirulina Manna and Spirulina Azteca. Spirulina is a single-celled cyanobacteria that grows wild in freshwater lakes, basically warm, alkaline, volcanic lakes. And the word cyanobacteria, cyano means blue, and so that indicates that this spirulina is basically a bacteria that has learned how to photosynthesize and has developed blue pigments as a result. So very interesting organism, basically a photosynthesizing bacteria, effectively. These spirulina organisms appeared on the planet 3.5 billion years ago, as we described in the last slide. There are three major lakes on the planet that are currently producing spirulina naturally. Lake Qinghai in China, Lake Chad in Africa, and Lake Texcoco in Mexico City. And there's evidence of indigenous peoples consuming spirulina around all three of these lakes. There are actually two different strains of spirulina that have been identified at this time. First, Anthrospira plantensis, which is the strain that's indigenous to Lake Chad and Lake Qinghai, and Anthrospira maxima, which is indigenous to Lake Texcoco. And HealthForce actually offers both of these strains. The Spirulina Manna product is the strain of spirulina that's indigenous to Lake Chad, and the Spirulina Azteca product is the strain that's indigenous to Lake Texcoco. It's important to know, though, that we don't harvest our algae out of these lakes. Lake Texcoco is very polluted at this time, and nobody's eating the algae out of that lake, certainly. Lake Chad, though, there are still some people living around Lake Chad that are consuming the spirulina there, but that lake's in a very drought-stricken region. It's decreasing in size every year, so we're not harvesting our algae out of that lake. We're growing these two strains of algae in algae farms. Our Spirulina Manna is grown in Southern California in a farm that looks a lot like this. It's in the desert, very hot, very sunny, open algae ponds basically that are carefully monitored to make sure no other strains of algae are growing in there. And our Spirulina Azteca product we're growing in Chile in a similar farm. So there are a lot of different benefits that one receives when you consume spirulina. And certainly spirulina is incredibly rich in many different micronutrients, minerals, vitamins, especially rich in beta carotene, just off the charts in beta carotene. And interesting, I read a few weeks ago a study showing that spirulina actually has significant levels of vitamin K2 in it, which is very unique. Vitamin K2 is very difficult to get from plants. Not many plants have vitamin K2, so spirulina is one of the rare plants that have vitamin K2, which is a critical vitamin important for bone and teeth health and cardiovascular health and health of the pancreas. So really important vitamin to be consuming, and you can get that in a vegan diet with spirulina. Probably difficult to get enough vitamin K2 unless you'd consume massive amounts of spirulina, but you can certainly get at least some from spirulina and then potentially supplement for the rest of your needs. Um, Another thing that's kind of interesting about spirulina is it's the cheapest of the three different algae that are currently being consumed by humans, the three different microalgae. And that's simply because spirulina is the easiest to grow and harvest, basically. So you can get the most nutrition for your dollar with spirulina. If you can only buy one algae, you probably want to buy spirulina as a result of that. In addition, spirulina is the richest source of the omega-6 fatty acid known as GLA. This is a really critical fatty acid in human nutrition. It's very rich in human breast milk. And the reason for that is because it's important for brain growth and brain function. So if you didn't really get, if you weren't breastfed as a child, like myself, you didn't really get a lot of GLA. And you can certainly help to correct a little bit of that issue as an adult by consuming something like spirulina that's got a lot of GLA in it. GLA is also incredibly anti-inflammatory in the body. So it's very important to keep your inflammation down, and consuming GLA is one of the ways that you can do that. So very important fatty acid, and you can get a lot of it from spirulina. Spirulina also has a compound called phycocyanin, and this is the phytonutrient in spirulina which is responsible for the blue coloring. It's the blue pigment in spirulina, effectively. And it's a potent antioxidant. It's also one of the few substances known which both protects and supports kidney health. So it's very beneficial to consume this nutrient. Phycocyanin also stimulates the production of stem cells, which are found in your bone marrow. And these stem cells are the origin of all your red and white blood cells. Red blood cells being the cells in your blood that carry oxygen to all the rest of your cells, and white blood cells being the cells of your immune system. So by consuming spirulina, you can really build healthy blood and increase the number of immune cells in your body. And also studies show that consumption of even small amounts of spirulina dramatically enhance immune cell functionality. So you increase not only the number of white blood cells, but also their functionality when you consume spirulina. And the functionality aspect is most likely a result of the fact that spirulina consumption increases cytokine production in white blood cells. Cytokines are basically communication molecules that your white blood cells produce. So as your white blood cells are better able to communicate with each other because of this increased cytokine production, the whole immune system gets more functional and more effective at basically going after pathogens. So spirulina is just a phenomenal superfood. It's definitely high on my list of compounds to consume every day. So here we have the nutrition facts panels for our Spirulina Manna and Spirulina Azteca products. We sell Spirulina Manna as a powder and as a tablet option, and the tablets are 100% spirulina, no binders or anything in that tablet. And finally over here is the Spirulina Azteca Nutrition Facts panel. So we have a number of different options. We have a 5-ounce Spirulina Manna size, a 16-ounce Spirulina Manna size, and then we have 500 tablet Spirulina Manna size and a 1500 tablet Spirulina Manna product. Our tablets are 200 milligrams each. And we also have a 150 gram Spirulina Azteca size and a 500 gram Spirulina Azteca bottle as well. So in terms of how to use this product, when you're using the spirulina powder, you want to start slowly. This is a fairly cleansing product because of all the chlorophyll in it. And you start with 1 teaspoon a day and increase gradually over 2 weeks to the serving size of a tablespoon per day. And you can take that either all at once or divided. You see we have slightly different serving sizes for our Spirulina Manna and Spirulina Azteca. They're both the serving size 1 level tablespoon, but the Spirulina Azteca is a little more dense. 1 tablespoon of Spirulina Azteca is 7.5 grams of algae, whereas 1 tablespoon of Spirulina Manna is only 6.5 grams of algae. When you're using tablets, once again, start slowly. Start with 8 vegan tabs per day and increase gradually over 2 weeks to the suggested use of 33 vegan tabs per day. And once again, you can either do that all at once or divided. And you can take these tablets with pretty much any liquid, water, juice, coconut water, whatever you enjoy that's healthy. In terms of how to take the powder, You can add it to smoothies, salad dressings, juice water, seed nut milks, coconut water, or really any other food. A lot of people like to sprinkle spirulina onto their salad. I wouldn't really heat spirulina. The heat's going to destroy some of the nutrients in it, but you can certainly keep it in things that are room temperature or cold. So that's a number of different ways to consume spirulina. As I mentioned in the previous slide, Spirulina Manna, more appropriate for smoothies. Its taste is more appropriate for the sweet flavor, whereas Spirulina Azteca, I personally find it to be more enjoyable in something savory like added to a salad dressing. So there's some serving ideas for you. So let's talk about Chlorella Manna, another fabulous algae that is important for modern humans to consume, in my opinion. Chlorella is another single-celled freshwater algae like spirulina, and chlorella emerged on planet Earth about 2 billion years ago, so it evolved significantly later than spirulina did. Unlike spirulina, chlorella is a green algae. It's got only the green pigment from chlorophyll. It's lacking that phycocyan, and that's responsible for the blue pigment in spirulina. Remember, chlorophyll's the nutrient or the aspect of plants that allows them to photosynthesize. And chlorella is very similar to hemoglobin in human blood, and hemoglobin is what carries oxygen to our cells. So when humans consume chlorophyll, we're able to make more hemoglobin, which means our cells get more oxygen, which allows them to produce more energy and detoxify themselves more effectively. So chlorophyll is just a wonderful thing to be consuming a lot of. So definitely eat your greens. And one of the best ways to eat your greens is eat chlorella, because chlorella is probably the most chlorophyll-rich plant on planet Earth. Chlorella, little more of an evolved organism than spirulina. Spirulina has basically a sugar cell wall that effectively just melts as soon as we consume it. So spirulina is very easy to digest. Chlorella, on the other hand, develops some defenses to help protect it from things like bacteria and whatnot. Chlorella has a tough cellulose cell wall, which makes up about 20% of the cells. And inside that cell wall is a well-defined nucleus structure with a lot of nutrients that makes up about 80% of the cell. So one thing to know is that humans can't digest this tough cellulose cell wall in chlorella. So you shouldn't buy chlorella unless the cell wall has been cracked in some way. And our Chlorella Manna has the cell wall cracked by a very unique process. It's basically the chlorella is dehydrated, and the strain of chlorella that we're growing in Chlorella Manna has a cell wall that cracks fairly easily. So just in the dehydration process, that cell wall cracks, kind of like an eggshell of a hard-boiled egg cracking if you squeeze the egg or put pressure on the egg in some way. And so with the cell wall crack like that, when you consume it, your digestive system will easily be able to accomplish the rest of the cracking of the cell wall to access the nutrients inside the chlorella cell. So what's really great about that is that most chlorellas are cracked, the cell walls are cracked via mechanical grinding, which basically just grinds up the whole cell and exposes all the nutrients inside the cell to oxidation as a result. But with our chlorella having just the cell wall cracked gently, the nutrients inside the cell are not exposed to oxygen in any way, and they won't oxidize. So our chlorella the nutrients are much more well preserved in Chlorella Manna than other chlorellas. Um, and one of the really great things about consuming chlorella is it really shines in its ability to promote detoxification. And us modern humans all need support with detoxification. So I think chlorella is just extremely beneficial for us to be consuming, not just because of the chlorophyll content, but because it's such a great detoxifier. We talked about how the chlorophyll helps promote detoxification of all of your cells. Chlorella also, with this tough fibrous cell wall, is a great chelator. This cell wall is able to bind with things like heavy metals, radioactive isotopes, pesticides, and many other toxins and chelate them or carry them out of the body for you. So having chlorella in your digestive system working to chelate all these different types of toxins is really special and really beneficial for us modern humans. And in terms of radioactive isotopes, a lot of people are concerned that chlorella is potentially being grown in Japan and picking up radioactivity from Fukushima. Our chlorella is grown in South Korea, and we've tested it for radioactivity and found none to be present. South Korea is upwind from Japan generally, so we verified that none of that Fukushima radiation is contaminating our chlorella. Just an FYI. So another really fantastic aspect of chlorella consumption is a phytonutrient that chlorella contains called chlorella growth factor. This is a compound within the nucleus of chlorella that is very rich in nucleic acids. This phytonutrient is really what's responsible for the incredible growth of the chlorella algae. Chlorella will quadruple itself every day under favorable conditions. That's just an extraordinary growth rate. And when modern humans consume chlorella, we get a lot of benefits because of this chlorella growth factor. Now, as I mentioned, chlorella growth factor has those nucleic acids that will help us, our bodies, repair our genetic material, which is going to help all of our cells function much more effectively. So chlorella growth factor in general improves the functionality of all of our cells. It supports cellular repair functions, supports cellular detoxification. It supports oxygen utilization efficiency inside our cells. So chlorella is certainly a fabulous thing for athletes to be consuming. If your oxygen utilization efficiency improves, your energy production in your cells is going to improve, and hopefully that's going to mean your athletic performance will improve. Chlorella growth factor also helps to modulate our immune function, and a big part of the reason why is because chlorella has been shown to support the growth of beneficial intestinal bacteria. Your intestinal bacteria are intimately entwined with the health of your immune system. And so you improve the health of your intestinal bacteria, and you're going to improve the health of your immune system. And studies have shown up to a 400% increase in friendly bacteria counts after sustained chlorella consumption. And finally, chlorella is a fabulous antioxidant. Chlorella growth factor, rather, is a fabulous antioxidant, and therefore it helps to combat the damaging effects of free radicals and radioactive isotopes. So just a really great array of benefits coming from chlorella consumption. Just another fabulous superfood that's available for our enjoyment. On this slide, we've got the nutrition facts for our Chlorella Manna shown. And Chlorella Manna, like Spirulina Manna, is sold as both a powder and a tablet. Like Spirulina Manna, our tablets are 200 milligrams each. So we've got two different sizes of powder available. We've got a 100-gram powder and a 300-gram powder. And then we have two different sizes of tablets available as well. We have a 500 tablet bottle and a 1500 tablet bottle. Serving size on both the powder and the tablets are 5 grams. And in terms of how to take this, now chlorella, we talked about how cleansing it is, how it supports detoxification in the body. So you definitely want to start slowly with chlorella. With the powder, start with 1 teaspoon and slowly work up to the suggested serving of 1 tablespoon per day, either all at once or divided. And with the tablets, start with 5 vegan tabs and slowly work up to the 25 vegan tab per day level. And you can take that either all at once or divided. And like Spirulina Manna, our Chlorella Manna tablets don't have any binders or anything but chlorella in them. They're simply compressed chlorella. So in terms of how to take the powder, it certainly works by adding this powder to smoothies and salad dressings and juice, water, or seed and nut milks, coconut water, sprinkling it on other foods. Once again, like spirulina, you probably wouldn't want to heat this product. That would destroy some of the fragile nutrients in it, but certainly taking in anything cold or anything room temperature that is healthy and that you enjoy would be appropriate. So now that we've covered both spirulina and chlorella, I wanted to give a shout out to one of the products we make called Elite Green Protein, and we also, that's the Warrior Force version of our protein powder, and then we have a HealthForce version of that protein powder called Green Protein Alchemy. Green Protein Alchemy and Elite Green Protein, effectively the same product. This is a protein powder made out of spirulina and chlorella. So as we've discussed up to this point, you know, these algae are not the greatest tasting things in the world, but the Elite Green Protein and the Green Protein Alchemy really mitigate that. We use about 80+% spirulina and chlorella in these protein powders, providing about 14 grams of protein per serving. So that's a fair amount of algae. These protein powders require about 2 heaping tablespoons per serving. That's a lot of algae, and straight spirulina and or chlorella, 2 heaping tablespoons worth would probably ruin a smoothie in terms of the flavor. But this protein powder really works some magic in terms of the flavor by adding some things like carob and mesquite powder and peppermint and ginger to really alter the flavor of the spirulina and chlorella and make it somewhat pleasant. I actually really enjoy this protein powder in cold coconut water. So if you're looking for a way to consume large quantities of Chlorella Manna, you might want to check out either Elite Green Protein in the Warrior Force brand or Green Protein Alchemy in the HealthForce brand to enable you to consume a lot of spirulina and chlorella in a way that's relatively palatable. So finally, let's discuss our Klamath Lake algae product, which we call Elixir of the Lake. Elixir of the Lake is blue-green algae like spirulina, so it's got both the green pigment chlorophyll and the blue pigment phycocyanin. Remember, phycocyanin helps support kidney health, helps to stimulate production of red blood cells and white blood cells in the body, and also functions as an antioxidant. Now, what's unique about Klamath Lake algae is that it grows wild in Upper Klamath Lake in Oregon. This is different than spirulina and chlorella. All the spirulina and chlorella products on the market, including ours, are cultivated in man-made ponds in various places around the planet. But Klamath Lake algae grows wild in Upper Klamath Lake in Oregon. Here's a picture of the Upper Klamath Lake ecosystem here. The fact that this algae grows wild has some positive aspects and some negative aspects. So let's talk about that. First, the positive. Anything that grows wild in nature generally is more vital and has more life force energy, which is obviously a good thing. And specifically, this ecosystem here in Upper Klamath Lake is incredibly mineral rich. What we now know is Crater Lake was once a volcano, and about 7,000 years ago, that volcano just blew up in a massive volcanic eruption that literally pulverized the top 5,000 feet of that mountain and spread mineral-rich sediment all over the region. And so Upper Klamath Lake has a very rich amount of mineral sediment at its bottom. Apparently up to 35 feet deep mineral-rich sediment there that this Klamath Lake algae has access to as it grows. So Klamath Lake algae is extremely nutrient-rich, micronutrient-rich, especially mineral-rich, probably the most mineral-rich of all the algae that humans consume for food as a result. Now, in terms of the negative aspects of growing in Upper Klamath Lake, they center around the issue of contamination. First of all, there are some farms around the lake, especially around the lower end. These farms spray their fields with pesticides that can potentially run off into the lake, potentially chemical fertilizers as well. So we mitigate that by harvesting our algae at the upper part of the lake. The upper part of the lake is spring-fed. It's very clean. There's not any kind of significant levels of farming around it. And there's a current, slow current that flows through the lake from the upper end to the lower end. And so, we're confident the upper end is pure, and we verify that with our organic testing. This product has been tested for 292 different pesticides, radiation, and GMOs, and found to have 0 detectable levels of all of that in it. So we're confident in the purity of this product and the purity of the upper part of Klamath Lake where we harvest. The other contamination issue is another type of algae that can grow in this lake. I mean, all lakes, there are many different types of algae that can grow, and there are some strains of blue-green algae that are actually toxic. One toxic strain of cyanobacteria is microcystis, which can produce a liver toxin known as microcystin. And that algae does grow in Upper Klamath Lake. So what we do is we harvest our algae only in the fall. The Klamath Lake algae basically blooms only in the fall for about a month. And we harvest at the height of that bloom. And at the height of the Klamath Lake algae bloom, it is so thick it crowds out all other algae in the lake. So harvesting in a narrow 2-week window every year basically can assure, at the height of the algae bloom, can assure that there's virtually no microcystis content in what we harvest. And we verify that because each batch of this product is sent to a certified independent laboratory and tested to ensure that the microcystin content is well below the stringent requirement of under 1 part per million set by the Oregon Department of Agriculture. So we're extremely confident in the purity and the safety of this product based on the testing that we do and based on the fact that we only harvest in a 2-week window at the height of the algae bloom in the clean upper part of the lake in the fall. And in terms of processing, if you're going to go to all that trouble to harvest a product like this, it's important to process it to preserve the fragile nutrients in this algae. And so our processing is state-of-the-art with this product. We harvest directly into a refrigerated tank on board a state-of-the-art harvesting boat. We use what's known as a bioevaporative drying process to dry the algae into a powder. That process takes about 5 minutes to do. It's done in the presence of carbon dioxide to prevent any oxygen from oxidizing any of the nutrients. And the temperature only goes up to 105 degrees for about 2 of those 5 minutes that it's in the drying process. So this is about the best drying process to preserve life force energy that can be done with modern technology at this time. I mean, this algae, in our opinion, is every bit as good as eating algae right out of the lake would be. There's virtually no degradation of the fragile nutrients in this algae because of the way that we process it. So finally, let's talk about why you would want to consume elixir of the lake. It's the most expensive of the 3 algaes, and it's a blue-green algae like spirulina. So why would you choose to consume elixir of the lake over spirulina? Well, the answer is that this algae has a unique aspect. It is able to metabolize nitrogen directly from the air to produce abundant quantities of what are known as neuropeptide precursors. These protein molecules the body can turn into neuropeptides, which are similar to neurotransmitters in that they're used by our nervous system to different nerve cells can communicate with each other using these neuropeptides. So if you consume something that has neuropeptide precursors, your nervous system is going to be much more communicative, and that translates into a lot of benefits that people have reported in when consuming this algae. Uh, Anecdotal reports of increased mental alertness, memory retention, problem-solving abilities improving, creativity improving, dream recall improving, and a greater sense of well-being and centeredness. So there's not many foods on the planet that have these types of benefits upon consumption. And certainly, we can all use a little support in our mental and emotional bodies. And Klamath Lake algae tends to provide support in that area. So it's really a wonderful addition to your nutritional protocols. Finally, let's discuss how to use this product, Elixir of the Lake. We've got the nutrition facts here. You see the serving size is 2 grams or 1 teaspoon. We've got 2 different size bottles available, a 50-gram bottle and a 150-gram bottle. This product is extremely cleansing. Definitely start slowly. We recommend starting with just a 1/4 teaspoon or even less, and increase slowly to the 1 teaspoon per day serving size. 3 teaspoons per day is actually a mistake. So serving size is 1 teaspoon in this product, so increase up to that 1 teaspoon a day level. I like to add this product to my Vitamin Mineral Green that I take every day. Vitamin Mineral Green has spirulina and chlorella in it, and with an addition of 1 teaspoon of Elixir of the Lake, I'm able to get all 3 of these algae coming into my body every day. How to take it? This product is certainly a strong flavor like all the other algae that we sell. It certainly works in smoothies. You can add it to salad dressings, put it in juice or water, seed or nut milks, coconut water, or any other food. And once again, keep it cold or room temperature. Don't heat this product to prevent damaging any of the fragile nutrients that are in it. So hope you've enjoyed this product training on all the types of algae that we humans consume for food. They're phenomenal superfoods, and I hope you choose to incorporate them into your nutritional protocols.